innovator, and true Shark Tank survivor. Vanessa grew up in Wilbraham, right in the heart of Pioneer Valley, where many Polish-American families settled and created communities. She and her sister Casey were fortunate to have a family Polish deli in Catalan, where trays of homemade pierogi were always stocked in the freezer. It was their vision of mac and cheese whenever they were hungry, including pierogi deliveries from mom when they were in college. Imagine that, that's pretty awesome. After graduating from Tufts University, Vanessa built an impressive global career in marketing and account management, working in Oxford, Rome, and Amsterdam. But eventually, she and her sister returned to their roots, dusting off their grandfather's cherished recipe and launching Jaju Pierogi at local farmers markets. By 2017, the sisters took the leap of faith, going full-time with their business, and have been growing the brand ever since. Now living in Beverly, Vanessa leads marketing and sales for Jaju Pierogi, supports Holy Cow Ice Cream's marketing efforts, volunteers with a local animal rescue, and is currently training for her 12th marathon. When she's not working, which is rare, you'll find her in the woods or at the beach with her 2 rescue pups. Please join me in welcoming our remarkable entrepreneur and Shark Tank survivor, Vanessa White.
So yes, I'm Vanessa. I'm one half of Jaju Pierogi. So Jaju, J-A-J-U, is the phonetic spelling of grandfather in Polish. So the word for grandfather is dziadek, and then you have like Jaji, Jaja, Jaju, just like you would have grandpa, different variations of grandfather in English. And so yeah, so as you know, was shared, grew up in Western Mass. We always had pierogi, and my sister's 5 years younger than me, and we started connecting the dots that like it was weird, it was different, that we always had these pierogi around. Around college, and we had our first roommate, people started asking us where we got them. And then she was behind me, so I got out, I had a few jobs, and then she was out of school for like a year or 2, and we started saying, you know, it was right around like when there was kind of like a foodie revolution, especially around the Boston area. And we were like, someone's gonna start a pierogi business, like someone's obviously gonna start one. And then no one did, and we were like, so are we gonna do this? And so I always tell people starting food businesses that we've always been super, super scrappy, always very resourceful, and very meticulous and intentional about how we spend our money, how we spend our time and everything. And so kind of fast forward, like we're still, we only did one friends and family round, we're still 82% ownership of the business. Yeah, we're nationwide. So back then when we started, we did visit like the community or the kind of shared kitchen spaces, but we found them just to be too expensive with the storage costs and everything like that for such a labor-intensive product like pierogi. So we actually walked into a deli in my town one day that sourced a lot of local goods, and we asked the general manager if we could rent their back space, or prep space on Sundays. So that's how we started. We were in their back kind of prep space Sundays from like 8 in the morning till whenever we finished. And then they had an empty chest freezer, and we would fill it up, and then we would package that in clamshells, and we would go to a farmer's market the following week. Or then we started doing pop-ups, because at the time, that was when craft beer was really, really growing. So the combination, and that, if there's any luck in our business, I feel like it was the timing of happening just when craft beer was really taking off, because it allowed us to travel all over New England on very low budget, on literally like grills we bought from Amazon, and fry up pierogi and have lines of people getting to know our brand. So that's kind of how we launched our brand in New England. And then we were driving around, dropping samples of our clamshell pierogis at all these small stores. I'm trying to think, like Ed Hyder's was one of our first ones out here. Harvey's Farm was one of our first customers out in this direction. And so we would drive around and we would deliver our own product. We did then upgrade to having our first regional distributor, and then we did upgrade to having the pouches that you now see in stores. So we went from like a clamshell with a cardboard wrap around that we were self-stickering to then, yes, resealable pouches. And we just really gradually grew our business. businesses. So, one of the things that was said was, I'm surrounded by a lot of peers, a lot of friends of mine that are in, I don't know, 10,000 stores or something, and they've raised a lot of money, and they're spending a lot of money. And sometimes those businesses can raise a lot of money and they can still fail. So I think it's hard to kind of pace yourself, but to know your own story and work at your own, just because someone's growing faster than me now doesn't mean that I honestly won't outlive them, because we're working a little more methodically. It's that whole story of the tortoise and the hare, I guess. I mean, they could also sell to Hershey's, I don't know. But you kind of have to have confidence in your own pace. So we started with small stores, and then I think our first chain, right before, literally the March of COVID, they ordered. It was the craziest timing. I think we launched on March 15th when everything closed at Rose Brothers. That was our first chain that brought us into a larger regional distributor, and then we were able to launch with Big Y, which I'm sure you guys are more familiar with. And then we just started adding chain by chain, down the Eastern Seaboard, little by little. We never really tried to go, too wide, just little by little adding on. Now, today we did self-manufacture, so we went from the back of the deli to then sharing a kitchen space with a sauerkraut maker in Gloucester. Very good pairing for a year. Then we built out our own space for 3,500 square feet in Lynn, Mass. We were there from 2018 to 2023. We just outgrew that logistically. That is one thing that I laugh because you have to laugh, but when we move into this space, when we started, we didn't have anybody, any advisors or any fans. We still don't have a board, we're just winging it a little bit still, but if someone told me when I was hand making in the back of that deli that I would have to be thinking about shipping pallets around the country, what? I don't know what that means. And so when we moved into the space in Lynn, it was in this building that was from the 1800s, and the loading dock was 2.5 feet too tall. To get down to the regular loading dock, you have to get into a freight elevator and go down half a flight. And it was in a crowded neighborhood, and so we really started growing. Because now on a given week, you can send out in a busy season, we can send 15 pallets out, in 1 week. So we outgrew that space logistically, and at that point, we started looking for real estate to build out a larger facility. We kind of hit a fork in the road a little bit, where we were saying, okay, we either have to raise a lot of money to build out a facility with, all the equipment, because then we were using machinery at that point, but the part that we were missing was the spiral freezer, which is a flash freezer that freezes things in 15 minutes, and that's a huge, probably the size of this room, and a huge investment. We kind of looked at that. Honestly, in the Boston area, Eastern Massachusetts, even Southern New Hampshire, industrial space, you're competing with that space for condos, to be honest. So it was just really hard for us to find the space to do that. So we ended up going with a co-manufacturer. So now all of our product is made by 2 co-manufacturers, which are just people that, they have your recipe, they have the equipment, and they make your product for you. So we have one in Hingham and one in New Jersey as well. The New Jersey one allowed us to launch a gluten-free pierogi recently, which is super exciting. So now I am full-time just selling and marketing. My sister, who is his partner, she's the finance and operations. And luckily we are so different, which, can cause problems as sisters, but we are 2 different brains. But we're so fortunate that we are built that way, because we have 0 overlap in terms of I guess we could both do operations, we could both do sales in our own way, but in terms of the marketing and the finance, do not show me an Excel spreadsheet, and she's not creative at all. So we kind of we split the responsibilities like that. But yeah, so that's kind of the story now. These days, I'll jump into Shark Tank next, but these days, so we are national with Whole Foods. We're with Sprouts Farmers Market for all their stores. We're with the Fresh Market. We're with Big Y, we're with so many like regional independents. We just learned that we're gonna launch with 300 targets in the Midwest. That's exciting. Very expensive, very exciting, very expensive. We've done some tests with Costco. We're working on getting more Costco business. Also trying to build our food service line, which means like selling pierogi in bulk to restaurants and things like that. So it looks like Cisco in the Midwest will be coming through. So just all these little things all the time. But we're working from the smallest stuff, like, you know, we were like at Mount Snow and all of their restaurants and lodges this winter, like stuff like that, to the big guys like that, like Cisco or Target, things like that. So, and we really do feel like everybody's important, from the smallest farm stand to Target or Whole Foods. So, but yeah, Shark Tank. So, I'll give you a little behind the scenes from Shark Tank. So, obviously, I mean, I don't know if you guys have similar businesses, but throughout every time, you know, farmers markets, events, when we were really busy, people followed us around, they would say, you should go on Shark Tank. Ever. And we were never really ones to be like pursuing funding, it's kind of a thing. Like, I really wanted to keep the business our own. So it wasn't something that we were like really pursuing or thinking about, but then they actually reached out to us. January of 2024. Yeah, January 2024. And we thought it was spam. It was like, you know, Shark Tank. So-and-so at SharkTankTV.com was like, okay. But then it turned out that it was real. We got on a call. It's funny because you get like excited that first call, and I've had friends in the business who have gotten that same email and get like really excited, and they reach out to me. Oh my God, they reached out to me. And I'm like, they're just making sure you're alive. They're just making sure you have a pulse and that you're a US citizen. Like, don't get too excited yet because there's a long road. So we did that, and then we had to fill out basically what I call like 3 college/mortgage applications combined. Like everything about you. So you had, you know, obviously background check. That's easy. That's like standard. And then we had to fill out like, what makes you you, and what's your hopes and dreams, and what are you gonna do, and like basically a psychiatric evaluation. And also like what you were gonna do, what you're gonna ask for, and what you were gonna do with this money if you got it. So there was also that. So it's basically like making sure that you're good for TV, and that it is potentially a real investment. So also checking that box as well. So we did all that. We did a 10-minute video, like basically answering those questions, a lot of those questions again, but giving them an idea of like who we were in terms of our entertainment value, I guess. And so then that was like mid-February, that we turned all that in, and then we heard back in April that we were then going to be paired with, we passed the test, that test, and we were paired with a production duo, and we started doing Shark Tank Boot Camp. So every week we'd have to meet in a private, we'd have to be in a private space. So it's so funny because you sign like NDA, you can't tell anyone that you're doing this. You're not supposed to, right? Not even your spouse. You're like, okay. So we would like, so we would go, my friend owned a brewery in town, and like we would go there, and he knew, I was like, listen, so like we need like a quiet space where like no one can listen to us, so like here. So we would go to this place, and we would meet with our producer pair, and we started going through things like what we were gonna wear, because it's a lot of, at the end of the day, it's a lot of, yes, entertainment, it's a lot of legal stuff. So it's like, you can't walk out in like Nikes. You can't walk out with, Prada sunglasses or something. And then even down to your tattoos, because apparently, I think in the latest Hangover movie, or one of the Hangover movies, I think Mike Tyson had a tattoo that was like the original artwork of his tattoo artist, and the tattoo artist like sued. So after that point, something like that. So after that, they even check your tattoos to make sure that they're nothing specific. But so there's a lot of that, making sure that anything you're using, like your backdrop, if you're designing your backdrop, the photography, everything. Like we have a pierogi costume, if you've seen the episode, pierogi costume. that was made by somebody, like everybody who's been involved has to sign off to make sure that they're not going to sue. Like, so it's like a lot of that stuff. And then the only part that's scripted is that first, I mean, it's clear it's scripted. They walk out, it's like over the top. It's like, hey, sharks, you know, and like that whole minute and a half, that is agreed upon beforehand, and that's something we worked with them as well. But during this entire process, so this was like April to June for us, like every week and a half, you could get dropped at any time. So that was another thing, like you really, couldn't get your hopes up until the very end when they emailed you and told you were gonna air, because we ended up, we went through the whole, we went through that process. We did a run through on Zoom with the executive team. We got signed off on that, and they told us at the time that we had to hold like a 2-week time frame. They film everything in like June and September for the whole season. It's not like they're always filming. So they do like 2 10-day stints, and they go through like 9 entrepreneurs a day during those stints. And so we were told to hold this like 2-week window. Don't plan anything else. Okay, sure. Don't worry. Sounds good. And at the time, the Mavericks, Mark Cuban's Mavericks, were playing the Celtics in the playoffs. And so he was flying back and forth, and they were waiting to see like when he'd be in town. So it was this whole really touch and go thing. But they ended up, we flew out on a Wednesday in June. We were the first day of filming for the whole season because they wanted the most energetic entrepreneurs to pump up the sharks. And that was a whole thing. So we flew out on Wednesday, got brought to a hotel, and then it was like land at 3, go to Sprouts down the street. Sprouts is a grocery store. Get your materials, because we had all of our like ingredient components that were going to be on our backdrop. So it was like, go shopping, bring it back, give it to the production assistant, then wait. Here's $112 for food. That's definitely some negotiated amount on some, something with the union. And then, so they paid for the flights and the hotels and everything like that. And then we came, so we're in the hotel, we were gonna get a text whether we were gonna film we were gonna get in the shuttle at like 6 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning. And we're on East Coast time and we're like flying high on the airplane and we're just like, please just be 6 o'clock in the morning, right? We were up anyway because we're awake, and my sister and I were just like drilling each other, like, what if they ask this? What if they ask this? What if they ask this? Like, again and again and again and again. You're just like wired, right, the whole time. Because really it's a commercial for your business, right? Regardless of whether you get a deal or not, like, it's a commercial. So we ended up going to the studio at 11. And again, they do like 9 entrepreneurs a day. Everybody's there for like an hour, roughly, with them. It was so funny, like as a kid, my uncle worked for Universal Studios, and so I would always go on the studio tours, and I was there. It wasn't at Universal, I forget which one it was at, like this, I think it was Sony. But there was a studio tour, and I was like, I'm part of the studio tour today. That's so weird, right? Like, because I was just like hanging outside of our trailer, and there was just this group walking by. But yeah, so we ended up filming at 6 p.m. Yeah, it was honestly a great experience. Like I said, like only part that's scripted is that first part, and then it's just a conversation. And then once you settle in, you're just like having a conversation with these people. It is very much like you see on TV, where they're just like firing questions at you, and they're all like, someone will ask you like, what color is the sky? And then you'll start answering, and someone will be like, what year was Columbus born? It's like, I'm just giving those examples, but it's like they're trying to throw you off so much to both like test your ability to kind of stand your ground and also make it a little bit for TV. So what you're seeing is on TV, like that's real. They do edit a lot, obviously, because you're with them an hour, so when they get it down to 10 minutes, we didn't know like what they were going to show. But the other thing that happens is you're so high on adrenaline that you black out. So like, we had a feeling it went well, but then when we were like trying to recall what we actually said in like the days afterwards, or like if we had said something that we were supposed to say, like forget it, that was all gone. And the other thing is the adrenaline rush. Like as soon as you finish and you walk out and they do the exit interview, you're immediately starting to just crash. I remember them asking my sister to like repeat something that she had said because they wanted to capture it, and she tried like 3 times, and I was like, no, Casey, like literally just say that like one thing that you just said. You could just feel your brain cells just like dying because you're just going off in adrenaline. And then they do actually have you speak with like a therapist at the end as well, because or like a therapist or a psychiatrist or something, because people are coming out of that feeling a lot of different things. Like we didn't have so many eggs in the basket that we were like, because we walked away from a deal, that we were devastated or anything like that. I mean, obviously you go there thinking like, this is going to change my life, and then you leave without a deal and you're like, okay, my life's the same now. But yeah, that was the biggest thing I think that I walked away with. Just like the adrenaline rush was crazy. So much so that we went back to the next hotel, because then they moved us to another hotel. And we were at the hotel bar, and I was like, I couldn't even finish my glass of wine. I was like, I gotta go to bed, I gotta go to bed. And my sister stayed, she came up, and like a true masochist, I was watching Shark Tank, I put Shark Tank on in the hotel room, and but I had fallen asleep like this with the remote control in my hand. My sister took it out of my hand, turned off the TV, and I still was just laying there like this, like I was out. But yeah, it was all very positive, and then after, so we didn't take a deal. So then part of that is that if you don't take a deal, they don't guarantee you to air. So you're only guaranteed to air after all of that, months and months and months, if you accept a deal. And then 40% of deals don't even go through on the back end, that's the other thing. 40% of deals, like handshake deals, don't actually go through. And that can be for a variety of reasons. I mean, people are doing due diligence. Some brands, like even though they warn you not to, like they, I think, accept the deal with no intention of following through as well. So, like I'm pretty sure Fishwife did that, which I like love them. One of my best friends works for them and everything, but I'm pretty sure that they did that more recently. But anyway, so we heard, so the season we filmed in June 2024. The season started in October, and it went till May, and we were almost like, wait in. We just kind of assumed that wasn't going to happen because we didn't accept that deal. And the second to last episode of the season we aired, and we were actually the only ones to air from our entire afternoon. So as like 5 entrepreneurs, we're the only ones. So the pierogi costume sealed the deal there. Yeah, and it was great. Our Whole Foods sales doubled in like the week afterwards. Yeah. So I will say, yeah, it was definitely great. Bit boost everywhere. And when I tell people, like, a lot of people I think have this idea of Shark Tank, which it was likely the case in like 2014, right? So in like 2012, 2014, when people had a lot of cable, were sitting on their couch on a Friday night and watching cable, Shark Tank was the thing to watch. Now, they actually moved it to Wednesday this season, which I think is indicative of the patterns they were seeing with like Friday night. And then you can stream it on Hulu. So I just think that the immediate reaction is different now. So people that like, I know that are maybe a little bit earlier than us, who are like, oh, I'm gonna go to the casting call. It's like, definitely no complaints, but I didn't go out and buy a yacht, right? You know what I mean? From Shark Tank. So it was a really positive experience, and it was great exposure for our business, and we got 1 million emails and a stalker. Additional stalker, but he's still, I was just in our Facebook messages, and he's still messaging, yelling at us for not taking Kevin's deal. It's like crazy. But yeah, so it was great. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions about the whole process, I'm definitely available. Or if you are interested in obviously we're gonna do Q&A, like questions about getting into the grocery industry, how to go about that, how to launch a product. Like I can, my number one thing is like test your product, do something low barrier, go to the farmer's market, things like that. But I'm happy to tell you all about the grocery industry, which is very predatory industry. It's crazy. And it's crazy how much they're charging all of these suppliers and why our grocery bills are so high. So yeah, so anyway, I don't know how I'm doing on that.
You're doing
Good?
fine.
Perfect? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Does anyone, I can talk more about like the grocery industry, right, if I have time.
you have
I have time? Okay,
You have
cool.
time.
All right, cool. So, yeah, so I think, for example, Whole Foods, right? So we were part of the accelerator program for Whole Foods, which was awesome. I never thought to apply, and then someone, like the local forager buyer was like, you should apply to this. And I was like, I'm already in 1,800 stores. Like, why do I do this accelerator program? That was super, I will tell anybody that comes to me with a similar concern, like, do it, it's worth the relationship. They choose one brand from each of their regions. And when you do that, you get accepted, and you launch, you get a lot of things waived. So normally when you launch in a grocery store as a brand, you are, and this isn't everybody, but once you get to the big guys, you're gonna be giving them free product or a slotting fee to launch, which free product is not like necessarily like here's free, like handing them actual product. It's like the value of the product, right? So for example, Sprouts Farmers Market is like 400 stores. They took 4 of our flavors. We should have negotiated on all of this, but we were just seeing stars. 4 flavors, and they required 2 cases free for each flavor. So that meant that we were giving the value of 8 free cases times 400 stores. Right? And it's not even the price that they pay, because behind the scenes, it's really all stacked against the little guy. And all these big like Whole Foods and whatnot, they get volume discounts on what they buy. So if, let's just say Ed Hyder's again, because a lot of people know them. Ed Hyder's can buy their product from the same distributor as Big Y. But because Big Y buys so much more product from that distributor, they're paying like the cost, meaning like what I'm selling for, plus like 10%, whereas Ed Hyder's is probably paying plus 30%. And that's just the reality of how it works. But yeah, so when you give a free case to Sprouts, they're charging you the maximum that anybody could ever pay from that distributor, which is such a crazy concept. But there's a $14 difference in the case cost between what they pay and that maximum amount, and it doesn't matter. You're paying that maximum amount. So when we launched with Sprouts, it cost us $200,000 to get into that store. And then when you're on the shelf, so if you see a sale in a store, I might be telling you things that you already know, but I did not know. It seems simple to me now. But when the sale that you see on the shelf is not the grocery store being charitable. I was just like, oh, the grocery store must go, but you'd be like, it's time to put popcorn on sale. No, the brand is funding all of that. So when you see our bags on sale at Whole Foods for like $1 off, every time someone takes our bag, scans at the register, we get charged $1. Yeah, I know, isn't that crazy? It's like crazy because you're like, obviously, and then you're like, wait, I just thought these grocery stores were just terrible organizations, I guess. I don't know. But then in addition to that $1, so in addition to the sale at Whole Foods, when you run, when you run the sale at Whole Foods nationwide, they charge you a fee. To change the price tags, that's $12,000 per sale, that's the fee, right? So if you run 5 sales a year, you're paying $60,000 just in fees. That's not even funding the sale, right? So that's like, that's kind of the nature of the grocery industry, and there's just 5 million things that they charge you for. So, like, if someone takes our pallet and our product in the warehouse and they run over our cases with a forklift, guess who pays for it?
No way.
Yeah, we do. The supplier pays for everything, everything. So that's when you see people raising all this money, because if you don't, you can't, like, that's also why we're very methodical about how we grow, because like Target, for example, I was saying, very expensive. If anybody buys our bags from Target off of the internet, like if they make an online order and they go to pick it up, we have to pay 10% of the value of that order of our product so that they can pay their employees to put our stuff in the bag. It's like, Target, that seems like a you problem. Like, you gotta pay your employees, right? The same thing with Whole Foods. Now that we do over $350,000 in sales with them, we pay 3% back of all of their POs to us for merchandising. So we pay them to make sure that our product gets on the shelf. Again, seems like a you problem, not a me problem, but okay. So it's like, that is a lot of why our groceries are so expensive in this country, is because there's all of these things that are happening in the background that require a supplier to increase their costs, right? Because for us, when we got hit with that 3% from Whole Foods, that was the first time we ever raised our prices in 9 years of being in business, which we just raised our case cost of we spread $1 over 6 pouches. To increase our costs, because that's just the reality of it. Yeah, so that's a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to tell you about the grocery industry that's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of crazy things, but yeah.
I've always been told that grocery stores, though, their margins are only like 2 or 3%. Is that true?
No. So here, that's a great point.
Okay.
So actually, that was another thing I was going to mention. So let's just, like, we sell our bags, let's just use an even number. So we sell our bags for $6.50 to the store or the distributor, right? So then the distributor, depending, like I said, like a big one to to Whole Foods is adding 8%, that's it. Whole Foods has a 40% margin, right? So they're adding, So they're buying our bag for $7, and they're selling it for $11. Stop and Shop, 50%.
Yeah. But
So
what is their margin after they pay all their labor?
Right. So who knows? Yes, so far, I don't know how that number, like after that, but all I know is that these stores, they buy it for that much. I mean, it depends, right? Like I said, the small butcher shop, the small whatever, they're probably getting our bags for closer to $8, to be honest, after the small distributor brings it to them. So that's why you're gonna see it more for like $13, $14 a bag. That's because of that additional math. But that's the other thing, is that brands do not control what their products are sold for at the stores. We can give it SRP, for sure. And we sell our bags for the same cost to everybody, but then obviously everyone has their calculus, whether it includes the distributor, or then they know their clientele or their own costs. For example, a running freezer, a frozen item has they add more money, more margin on it than bread or something like that, because of the cost of running the freezer and the electricity. For sure, that is something. The other thing to know too, I'm not boring anybody, but it's all this like nerdy stuff, is big grocery stores look at their sets once a year. So we get people who I do not blame them, because I was the same way. My favorite story to tell is always, I don't know how many people here eat pierogi, but there's a woman in Hawaii who used to message and be like, can you please make sweet cheese pierogi and send it to the Honolulu Whole Foods? And it's like, I don't even want to like make fun of her, because like I might have thought the same thing, like, before I started this business. But Whole Foods, Big Y, Hannaford, Market Basket, whoever, they're looking at a category one time a year. So, for example, for me as sales, I have to pay attention to when the resets happen at different grocery stores. So like Hannaford will look at their set in July. Then I just submitted to Giant, they were reviewing their potato set, that's what Pierogi are in there. And so when they do that, they look at who's performing, who's not performing, whether they can add a new flavor or stuff like that at that time of year. Pierogi and everything that we sell are competing against everything in that set, right? So if they have something that they know will make more money, because that's what they're measured on, they're gonna put that in instead of, so like when someone wants blueberry pierogi, I'm like, I love you, it's never gonna be French fries. It's never happening. It's not beating frozen enchilada or empanadas or anything like that. So like, that's kind of the calculus. Unfortunately, people, like, we're not a retail shop, so we have to be thinking about like the highest performing flavors that we can be presenting to these stores, and then they're planning to the millimeter, because yes, these buyers, they call buyers, they're being charged with having the most profitable set that they can have. Small stores, like farm stands and whatnot, all they gotta do is go, I can fit that right there, and they can stick it on their shelf. And so that's why you'll see like a lot more variety from our brand at like a farm stand, or they can, smaller distributors too, like we launched our gluten-free pierogi, they're like, sure, pick it up. For it to go into a big guy distributor, like the ones that service Whole Foods, I need a chain or an anchor to pull it in to guarantee it's gonna have the movement in the warehouse. Otherwise we get kicked out. So there's all that kind of stuff.
Take us back to the early days.
Oh, yeah.
When you're bringing free samples around to stores, who do you know to give it to, and how do you get their attention? You know?
That's a great question, and we can definitely bring it back. It's refreshing to bring it back to the early days. So we would call. So there's a couple things. So we would call and say, who's in charge, right? Who's in charge of buying? And sometimes it's the owner, you know? It depends on what it is. And so then we would tell them we were coming by, and we would make a whole route, and we would drop it off with a little one-sheeter about, you know, there is obviously licensing before that. You need to have a wholesale license and all of that. No one has honestly ever asked us for a wholesale license, so we could just be out here just, you know, not doing that. But yeah, so like we would do a one-pager with kind of like, you know, the ingredients, the barcodes, things like that, and we would leave it with the person, and if they weren't there, then, you know, we would follow back up and do that. But that was the easy times for sure, I would say. It wasn't easy, but it was just like, yeah, having that personal relationship with these stores, it was great. And I would not change that. There's a lot of brands that skip right over that and go into the big chains, but I would not change that. I think it's really special that you can walk into a farm stand still and see our product, and then you can go to the big stores. So.
Did you ever consider a food truck in the beginning days, or why not?
Yeah, sure. Actually, this is a great question. So we did have so kind of there's two answers, two different things I'll talk about there. So we were able to kind of do food truck stuff with our pop-up setup. So like, for example, we had a branded tent, we have a branded tent. At the time, I laugh, like, we used to cook on, like I said, like these Amazon griddles that were like $60. When we did our first Boston Callings, we do Boston Calling, they're not doing it this year because of the World Cup. We cooked up like 8 electric griddles, which just like blows my mind, because it's like, I can't imagine how long people waited for our food. Now we have 3-foot Blackstone griddles. So we travel around. I actually just came back on Sunday from Washington, D.C. because we cooked 6,000 pierogi at the Polish Embassy open house, which was a crazy moment for me. To think that like we were just making these in the back of a deli, and that they were like good enough that like the Polish ambassadors of the United States like thought they were good enough to come to the embassy. So now I just have to write them a nice letter and be like, please give me citizenship. But yeah, so we have 6 3-foot Blackstone griddles now, and that's how we do our festivals. So to go back to your question, Food trucks, at the time that we started, were very trendy. They are not anymore. Like, in the sense that, like, there's just, even like, same thing, brewery, pop-up, food truck, like, people in 2016, 2017, 2018, before COVID, people were like so excited to go on a Friday night and go to the brewery because so-and-so's grilled cheese is gonna be there and whatever. And that does not exist anymore on all fronts, right? It's just saturated, and so I think food trucks are a huge investment. They break down, a lot of maintenance. There's also in a lot of places, like, it's probably not as competitive anymore, but in Boston, it's a lottery system. Like, you can't just go park anywhere. You have to be permitted to park or slotted to park where you park. So you can't just like pull up. So I always tell people, if you can do what you want to try with a setup like with a tent, with like some griddles, like it's a great way to test it out versus going like the food truck route. We did have a storefront in Bow Market in Somerville from 2018 to 2020. It was great timing. Our lease ended May 2020. It was nice. It was so funny because they didn't want to renew it they didn't want to renew our lease because we didn't just do Bow Market. It was like, don't you want us like bringing all these people from all over the place to this, I don't know, whatever. So they didn't renew our lease, but it was actually worked out so well because we that timing, that was when things started opening up and you had to do all the different topes and everything like that to keep serving food. They had approached us and it was like a great experiment because I always had this idea that if you're gonna have a storefront, it would be like a galley and it would be like, here's your 6 pierogi flavors, here's your toppings, here's your sides, at the end. Like, there's I don't know if anyone's been to Charleston, but there's a place called Callie's Hot Little Biscuit in Charleston. Same thing, galley, biscuits, here's the fillings and the jams, grits, that's it. Like, that was the whole concept, and that was what it was. It was like a 6 by, or like an 8 by 10 kind of food stall, and we just had like our pierogies, flavors, and everything like that, and that was awesome. But yeah, to answer the question about a food truck, it's just like, try to do what you would do with a food truck with so much less investment. Oh, is there anything?
What's the most popular flavor?
We could be Jaju Pierogi, potato and cheese, and that could be our entire business for sure. It's like 50% of our business, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many flavors do you have, Vanessa?
So we have six flavors. Yeah, 6 flavors. So we have potato and cheese, sweet potato caramelized onion, which is it's number 2 or 3 depending, with loaded baked potato, which is potato, cheddar, chive, bacon, sour cream, diet food. We have jalapeno cheddar, which is my personal favorite, but people are afraid of spice. I think it's like hard to people understand how spicy it is. I call it New England spicy. It's very mild. We have kielbasa, red bell pepper, and then what else? We have our gluten-free. Oh, but butternut squash, apple and sage. That one's our vegan flavor. And then we have our gluten-free one we just launched. We're also working on launching potato pancakes. Experimenting there too. So
How many employees do you have?
we have. You're gonna laugh when I actually tell you. We have three of us, and then we have like my event staff. So it's me doing sales and marketing, my sister doing finance and operations, and then we have Amy, who's our production manager, who worked in the deli that we started at. Yeah. So she came to DC with us too, and she runs our line in Hingham and kind of oversees all of that, helps a lot with logistics and production, and my sister. And then I have like event staff that kind of tap in and out, but it's a great gig because like people can sign up for whatever they want to work during the summer and like make tip money, and like we just do weekend stuff. So I have a core group that kind of helps me run around and do things. So yeah.
Where do you see your business in 5 years?
5 years. Well, I live in Poland. I'm just kidding. So I think it's interesting to think about because I'm curious where. I mean, we have the largest following of a pierogi company in the world, and I think we're doing a great job. I guess I can tap myself with that.
Yeah.
But I think we're doing a great job, like, storytelling on our social media about dumplings as comfort food. What are pierogi? What's the cultural significance? What does it mean to be Polish American? Like, I think we have like a cult following. Like, it really is. We had people show up at the embassy in like different varieties of Jaju merch and be like, you know, so it's awesome. I think I'm interested to see like where pierogi go in terms of, because right now in the grocery stores, they're expanding their Asian sections, they're expanding their Indian sections. There's a lot of rage about dumplings. Like, dumplings are really popular. I know I'm seeing more momos now, which are like the Nepalese dumplings. And so we're in that wave, but not Asian dumplings. So I'm like interested to see, because, for example, like we want to get into HEB in Texas. The feedback from the buyer at HEB is that there's not enough demand for the pierogi category to introduce more variety in. So it's like, how do we create that demand? How do we demonstrate that demand? How do we continue to grow awareness about pierogi? Is it just not our moment? And like, it will be, because that's kind of, I think what we're trying to figure out is, we're a premium brand, right? So we can't go into like Food Lion, you know? We can't go in everywhere. We tried Stop and Shop, that didn't work out for us. It's just not the right clientele, and their margins and everything like that. So it's like, you know, we'd love to be a market basket, same thing. Pierogi don't sell that well, they say. Like, how do you demonstrate that differently? So I think over the next few years, we are looking at now, but it's like, what's the right fit for our business? I think if we could really build a good Costco business, that would be tremendous. Obviously, like getting set up with Cisco is huge, so the food service company that was sitting outside the door before. So I think it's just, I think we do value being stable as a company, because you can so quickly, like so easily, we go to these trade shows, there's so many brands. My favorite thing to ask at trade shows is we go to this one in California in Anaheim like every year, and it's like the Super Bowl of CPG, consumer packaged goods, food, and whatnot. And sometimes I walk around and I'm like, did anybody ask for that product? Like I remember our first year, someone sold corn milk, and I was like, did anybody ask? Like it sounds like corn puffs, like you know, like I don't know, that's gross. Like that kind of thing, a lot of adaptogenic, functional, blah, 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 all this stuff like that, and like a lot of trends, right? Like it's protein, then it'll be fiber, like I made a joke this year at the trade show. I like literally bought a thing of protein powder, and I was like, sprinkle on your pierogi if you want for protein. Like, so I think, yeah, it's interesting to see where we'll go, and like how a lot of those businesses, I was gonna say, a lot of those businesses will be like, and then crash and burn, right? So we do value the fact that we are comfortable or stable. Like you can grow also by driving what's called your velocities, which is how fast your product is selling at the stores that we're at. And that also helps to tell a better story when you're trying to sell to market basket. Hey, you don't think pierogi sell well, here are the numbers, right? So it's like that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of the story we're trying to tell is stay strong, stay stable, drive demand, grow the category. I have the conversation with myself every day.
I did. So now that you're nationwide and you do festivals, do you still find value in doing like farmers markets or like trying to get out to people, and how do you manage to do that?
Yep, so this season we are doing the Hope Street Farmers Market in Providence, like twice a month. In the winter I do Rollinsford, New Hampshire in a greenhouse, and we do Wayland as well, closer here. Then we have Notch Polish Fest, Notch Brewing in Salem, Mass, Polish Fest, and Boston Polish Fest on May 31st. Little Poland and New Britain, Connecticut in June. Then we'll do Newport Folk Fest, Newport Jazz Fest, and then we do like a whole slew of Oktoberfest. We get adopted as Polish food. So we have some in Walpole, Mass, Mount Snow, we do a few of theirs too. We're like all over New England. To answer the question is, I'm definitely done trying things that aren't, but other vendors don't. Like, I can talk to other vendors and they'll be like, this is really good, right? This event is really good. I will take that. I'm not trying like new things anymore in the sense that stuff's not vetted, because I found myself standing in the middle of a dusty field in Cape Cod for Cape Cod Food Truck Festival last August when it was like 89 degrees, and I was like, I think I died and went to hell. Like, I think this is it here. Yeah, so but to answer the other question is like, every market, I can go to Rollinsford Farmers Market or Hope Street Farmers Market every other week, and every market I will meet so many people that do not know we exist.
Yeah.
And I believe that it doesn't matter if you're Jaju Pierogi or you are, let's just call it like Fish Wife, or let's call it a huge brand. There are people, I mean, maybe not Annie's mac and cheese, that's different, but like there are people that don't know you exist. And so every opportunity is you like them, they're at Whole Foods. You like them, they're at Urban Greens Co-op. They're here, they're there. And so like, and honestly, like, I'm not going to every farmer's market. My rule for anybody that is in kind of this business or crafts or anything, if someone reaches out to you, it's a bad sign. Because if someone reaches out to you and says, hey, apply to my vendor fair or something, usually it's a bad sign, because people should be like knocking down the door and lining up and applying. They should have like a wait list. They should be like announcing that applications are open, and you're like racing to get your application in because you want to be there because you've heard it's so good. Like, that's the kind of events that you should be looking for. That's not to say that new events can't be that, right? There's rare exceptions that can be that, but yeah, so I would say like, it's 100% worth it. That event at the MSC I would have done anyway. Like, that was an incredible opportunity, but like, it was awesome. I brought empty bags and lined up the table, and so many people ate our pierogi because we gave two. They paid for like 2 for everybody, so everyone got 2 pierogi. And they would eat them and say, "Where do I buy them?" I was like, "This is more than I could have ever imagined." Honestly. So yeah, everything is worth it. I do prefer doing our events, like food trucky stuff, and farmers markets over doing sampling in store. That's what I personally. That's it.
Hello. Well, I love your humor and your family story, thank you for sharing that. Just curious, do you have just one main manufacturer?
2.
Oh, you have 2.
Hingham does most of it. That's like where we've been for 3 years. And then New Jersey, we're like kind of getting up and running. They're our gluten-free manufacturer right now, but then we need to kind of get some equipment stuff sorted out with them, but hopefully they'll be up and running too. So they did help us negotiate our cost at Hingham. So they were cheaper, and we were like, we're gonna leave, and they're like, okay, so it's all done.
And your ops person, is that the person that deals with the manufacturers, basically? Like, you say you only have like 3 employees,
Yeah.
which is so impressive as like the #1 person.
Yeah.
Obviously, those people, they're the ones, they're on your team, but you've got your internal employee basically.
Yes, so the co-manufacturers have like full staff, right? So they like, the price that we pay them for our product kind of incorporates all of their costs. So we're paying them like per pierogi. And that incorporates all the ingredients, everything like that. We do help with like, at times we help with sourcing, because we are very strict on our ingredients and like clean ingredients and stuff like that. So we're very strict on that. We source our packaging. And then, so my sister and Amy are helping with, I would say in Hingham, Amy's on the ground. She's watching everything, and she's also helping them with all of their operations. So she's living the life. She's getting salary from us, and they're paying her to do food safety. So she's good. I'm like, Amy, when are you buying another house? But yeah, so she's living the life, and then maybe she has to drive from Essex to Hingham, so that's a miserable commute. But so and then they're also doing a lot of logistics. So Casey and Amy do like a lot of like booking freight and a lot of that stuff too, which I do a lot.
We'll have time for one more question.
You guys can always email me. I'll answer really quickly. Go ahead. Yeah, and thank you.
Okay. What did you prioritize when you were starting off or investing in this part of your business? And knowing what you know now, did you do anything differently?
Okay, so I would say when we started, we definitely like took the money that we were earning at farmers markets and we would like buy a thing every week. The first thing we bought was a dough shooter, a tabletop dough shooter, because my hands could not deal with the hand roller or anything like that. We sold out at our first market in an hour. Out of like 50 packages, we were like, okay, yes, people want pierogi. And so then we took orders, like 35 more orders, and we had to go back to the place and like make it. I was just like, no more, my hands, I can't deal with that. So we did that. But I would say that we invested in, I think we invested our time, which is like the answer. Like we were somewhere Friday, Saturday, Saturday 2 places. We go to a farmer's market in the morning, we go to a pop-up at night, we go to another thing on Sunday. We were just like, we built our brand showing people that we were working hard. It was us. People bought into me and my sister in the story. So like visibility and being in front of everybody, I would say that was our investment. Because I can't say that we had like money that we were investing. It was just being extremely scrappy, you know, doing, like I said, answer this question, like doing something big with like equipment that costs nothing, like stuff like that, and just still to this day, we have 55,000+ followers, and we're in all of these stores, and we are selling on par with other items in our category, and we have not ever paid an influencer, okay? Don't pay influencers, and we just run sales. Like I don't pay $50,000 for an end cap. Like it's all social media and the story and being out there and being real and being vulnerable and like waking up and making a video with mascara smudged across my face. Like I believe in that. So anyway, anyone has any more questions? I have to hand over the microphone, but you can email me. Let's give it a
I watched the video on our website. Has anybody seen the video? It's amazing. Their presentation was amazing. It is on their website. Their Shark Tank appearance. She did wear the pierogi costume. And I thought they handled themselves impressively well, so well done. Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing your story. It's a powerful one. To build a brand and to build a business at this level, just by going to farmers markets and talking and doing everything you do. You're very inspiring. We really appreciate you being here today, so thank you, Vanessa.